Captain Elias Carter's starship trembled as it entered the outer rim of the unknown galaxy. Space was silent, but the hum of his ship's engine filled the cockpit. He had been on a deep space exploration mission for months, charting unexplored star systems. He was alone, his crew left behind at the last station to resupply. Suddenly, the ship shuddered violently. Warning lights flashed red and the control panel beeped urgently. Elias's hands flew over the controls, trying to stabilize the vessel. A sudden surge of energy hit the ship. "What the?" he muttered. "This isn't any solar flare I've ever seen." The sensors showed a gravitational anomaly ahead. The starship was being pulled toward a strange planet, its surface glowing faintly in green and blue. The atmosphere shimmered like liquid glass. Elias fought the controls with all his strength, but the ship was losing altitude fast. He activated the emergency landing protocol. A soft hiss filled the cabin as the landing thrusters fired, burning just enough energy to slow the descent. Still, the ship slammed against the planet's surface with a violent jolt. Elias groaned, pain shooting through his shoulder. The cockpit glass cracked under the force and sparks flew from the panels. He struggled to unbuckle his seatbelt, forcing himself upright. Dust and smoke filled the cabin. "Okay, Carter," he whispered to himself, "this is going to hurt, but you survive, you figure it out." With great effort, he crawled out of the damaged cockpit. The world outside was unlike anything he had ever seen. Towering crystalline trees reflected the light of two suns. Strange creatures with translucent wings fluttered past, and rivers of liquid light ran like veins across the land. Elias staggered across the rough ground, leaning on his multi-tool for support. He knew his first priority was survival. There was no way his ship could fly again without major repairs. He needed help, and soon, hours passed. Elias's strength waned. His communicator was damaged, unable to send signals to his crew or nearby colonies. Just as he began to feel despair, he noticed movement in the distance. Figures approached through the crystal forest. Small, agile creatures covered in soft, silvery fur. They had 4 limbs, but their hands ended in delicate, clawless fingers. Their faces were wide with expressive eyes that glimmered in the sunlight. The creatures paused as they saw him, their bodies tense. Elias raised his hands slowly, showing he meant no harm. "I'm not here to fight," he said, his voice calm but firm. "I need help. Can you help me?" One of the creatures stepped forward, tilting its head. It made a soft, melodic sound that Elias could not understand. The creature gestured for him to follow. Despite his injury, he nodded, knowing he had little choice. They led him through dense forests of crystalline flora, over glowing rivers, and past cliffs that reflected the sky like mirrors. The journey was long, but Elias noticed something unusual. These creatures were not afraid of him. They treated him with a mix of caution and respect, almost as if they recognized him. Finally, they reached a city carved into the side of a massive cliff. Towers of shimmering stone reached toward the sky, and bridges of light connected every building. Alien figures walked the streets, moving gracefully with long, flowing garments. The city seemed alive, humming with energy. At the center, a massive palace rose above the rest. Its walls sparkled like liquid crystal. Elias's guide stopped at the gates. One of them made another melodic sound, bowing slightly. Then they vanished into the crowd. Elias approached the palace guards. They were tall, regal, with elongated limbs and sharp, angular features. Their skin shimmered faintly and their eyes glowed with a golden hue. I'm just a traveler," Elias said, raising his hands. "I crashed on your planet. I need help." The guards whispered to each other, glancing at him with a mix of surprise and suspicion. After a tense moment, one spoke, his voice deep and melodic. Though Elias could not understand the words, the tone was clear: authority, command, and caution. Then the doors of the palace opened, and a figure appeared. The air seemed to shift as all conversation stopped. Standing before him was a woman of extraordinary presence. Her skin was pale and luminous, her hair like flowing silver silk. She wore a crown shaped like intertwined light strands, her eyes, large and deep, fixed on Elias as if seeing through him. The human swallowed hard. He had read about alien monarchs, but nothing prepared him for this. Her aura was commanding, yet calm almost, maternal. "You," she said in a voice that resonated like music and thunder at the same time. Elias realized she was speaking a universal translator dialect. Every word he understood perfectly. "You are far from your stars. Why do you come here?" Elias bowed slightly, though he felt small under her gaze. My ship was damaged by a gravitational anomaly. I did not intend to come to your planet. I need help to survive." The Queen regarded him silently for a moment, then gestured for him to follow her. He did so, wincing as his shoulder throbbed. The palace interior was breathtaking. Halls of crystal and metal intertwined, light flowing along the walls as if alive. They arrived at a room filled with soft, glowing beds. Elias was motioned to lie down. He obeyed, exhausted. He felt the Queen's eyes on him, and then something shifted. A small figure appeared in the doorway, a child. Elias's heart skipped a beat. The girl had hair like molten gold, eyes bright with intelligence and curiosity. She looked at him and smiled. "Father?" she said clearly, without hesitation. Elias froze. He stared at her, disbelief written on his face. I'm sorry. I think you have the wrong person," he said, slowly shaking his head. The child shook her head gently. "No, father. It's you. You've come." Elias's mind raced. He had no idea who she was or how she knew him. He looked up at the Queen, whose expression had shifted from curiosity to shock. Her eyes widened and her voice trembled slightly. Why does my daughter call you father?" she asked, her words filled with both confusion and something Elias could not name. Elias opened his mouth to answer, but no words came. He had no explanation, and yet looking at the child he felt something deep and unexplainable, a connection that went beyond reason, beyond time and space. The Queen stepped closer, her gaze intense. "You are not of our world." How can this be?" "I wish I knew," Elias said quietly, rubbing his temple. "I am as lost as you are." The child walked toward him and took his hand. Her touch was gentle, yet it carried a strange warmth, like a memory he had never lived but somehow remembered. Elias looked at her and felt a protective instinct he had never known before. The Queen studied him and the child, suspicion and awe warring across her face. "This connection," she murmured. "It should be impossible." Elias sat back on the bed, exhausted and confused. "All I know is, I don't want to leave her alone. I don't want anything to happen to her." The child smiled up at him. "You won't leave, father. You are here now." The Queen's expression softened slightly, though her eyes still held questions. She realized that this human, this stranger, was somehow tied to her daughter in ways that defied logic. And yet, there was honesty in his eyes, a courage she could sense. For the first time, she felt uncertain. She had ruled her planet with confidence and power. Yet this human's arrival had shifted something she could not name, something important. Elias settled back, feeling the weight of both exhaustion and responsibility. He had survived countless dangers in space, faced unknown creatures, and endured isolation. But nothing had prepared him for this. A world unknown, a Queen's suspicion, and a child who called him father. The night fell over the glowing city outside, but the palace remained bright, alive with light. Elias closed his eyes for a moment, letting his mind rest, but the child's small hand in his reminded him. This was no dream. He was here. He was needed, and somehow he was connected to this planet in a way that would change everything. Tomorrow he knew he would need to find answers, but for tonight, he would stay, and he would protect the child no matter the cost. Outside the window, the twin suns set, painting the sky with colors Elias had never seen. And somewhere deep in the palace, the Queen watched silently, wondering what fate had brought to her world. The morning light of the twin suns streamed through the palace's crystalline windows. Captain Elias Carter stirred from a restless sleep, the child's small hand still holding his. He looked down at her, Princess Leora, as the Queen had quietly introduced her the night before. Her golden hair glimmered in the sunlight, and her eyes shone with curiosity and trust. Elias could not understand how she could have called him father the previous evening. He had no connection to this child that he could explain, and yet when he looked at her, he felt something stirring deep within him, a protective instinct he had never felt before, even for his own family back on Earth. "Good morning, father," Leora said softly, her voice melodic. Elias blinked. I think you have the wrong person again," he said gently, though a smile threatened to break through. She shook her head, her small hand squeezing his. "No, father, it is you. You are here for me." Elias stared at her in astonishment. He did not know how to respond. He had faced hostile planets, deadly creatures, and impossible missions, but this bond, was something completely unknown to him. He felt a responsibility he could not refuse. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. The queen entered, her regal presence filling the room. She wore her silver crown, and her eyes, still golden and intense, were fixed on Elias and the child. Days passed, and the strange calm of the palace continued. Captain Elias Carter remained by Princess Leora's side, guiding her, teaching her, and protecting her in ways the Queen's court could not comprehend. Yet, while the child's laughter filled the halls, tension quietly simmered among the palace advisors. Humans were unknown here, strangers from a distant star, and their influence was unsettling. The Queen, Oriana, had watched Elias closely. She had spent countless years ruling with wisdom and caution. Nothing could surprise her, or so she thought. But the bond between Elias and Leora was something she could not explain, something that defied all reason. "You must understand. Elias," Oriana said one evening as they walked through the palace gardens. "My daughter is special, more than you can imagine. She is the heir to our people, and her life has been carefully guided. No stranger has ever formed a connection like this with her." Elias nodded, understanding the weight of her words. "I do not seek to disrupt your life, Your Majesty. I only wish to help her and protect her if danger comes. That is all I know." Oriana studied him, her golden eyes reflecting both caution and curiosity. "I sense that your presence awakens something within her, something beyond what I thought possible. But how, why? That is what I must understand." Before Elias could reply, the palace doors opened and a group of advisors entered. They were tall, regal, and precise in their movements. Their eyes glimmered with suspicion. "Your Majesty," one began, his voice melodic yet firm. "This human, his presence is unnatural. He is not of our kind. How can we allow him to remain near the princess?" Oriana raised a hand, silencing the room. "I am aware of your concerns," she said calmly. "But this human has shown honor, patience, and courage. More than I can say for some who have been near Leora for years. His bond with my daughter? I cannot ignore it," the advisors murmured uneasily. Some bowed, some frowned. One of them, an older alien named Varys, stepped forward. "Your Majesty, our people have long studied cosmic events and genetic patterns. There are anomalies in certain rare cases. Perhaps this child is one of them. But a human forming such a bond? That is unprecedented." Elias listened quietly, absorbing their words. He could feel the tension in the air, but he did not flinch. He had faced hostile aliens before, navigated unknown worlds, and survived impossible odds. Yet this political uncertainty, was a challenge of a different kind. "I am not here to disrupt your society," Elias said firmly. "I only wish to ensure the princess is safe, and that she can grow into her abilities without fear." "That is my purpose," Oriana nodded. "We shall observe. But mark my words, human, one mistake and the consequences will be severe. Do you understand?" Elias bowed slightly. "Yes, Your Majesty, I understand." That night, Elias returned to Leora's room. The child was already waiting for him, her small form curled on a glowing bed. When she saw him, she smiled brightly. "Father," she said, climbing into his lap. "They are whispering again. They do not understand us." Elias stroked her hair gently. "Some people fear what they do not understand, Leora, that is all. But we will not let fear control us. We will remain strong, together." Her small hand reached up to his face. "Do you think they will ever believe?" Elias looked into her eyes, feeling the depth of her trust. "I think that one day, yes. But until then, we keep moving forward, step by step. We stay true to who we are." Over the next few days, Elias noticed something remarkable. Leora seemed to have abilities beyond normal for her species. She could anticipate danger, sense shifts in energy, and react with quick precision. It was subtle but undeniable. He began to wonder if this child was more than she seemed, if the bond he felt was not just emotional but something deeper, something cosmic. Then, a startling discovery came. While exploring the palace library, Elias found records of a rare cosmic event, the celestial convergence that had occurred several years ago. During this event, energies from distant galaxies had merged briefly with the planet, affecting the DNA of certain individuals born in that period. Elias's heart raced as he read the details. Could this event explain Leora's unique connection to him? Could it be that somehow his human DNA resonated with hers across the stars? The thought was impossible, yet the evidence suggested it could be true. He did not tell the queen immediately. First, he needed to understand it himself. He observed Leora, watching how she reacted to the world, how she seemed drawn to him in ways beyond logic. Everything matched the theory. The celestial convergence had somehow created a bond that transcended species. The next day, he decided to test it. He and Leora walked through the palace gardens where sunlight shimmered off the crystalline plants. He asked her to close her eyes and focus on something she cared about deeply. She did as he instructed. "Now," Elias said softly, "reach out with your mind. Not words, not feelings. Just reach." Leora concentrated, and Elias felt a subtle tug in his mind, a gentle pull that was unmistakable. It was not telepathy as humans understood it, but a connection, a resonance that bridged two worlds. Elias realized then that their bond was not only emotional, but also physical in a cosmic sense, a bridge formed by the rare energies of the universe. When Leora opened her eyes, she looked at him in wonder. "I felt it, Father. I knew you were near me." Elias smiled, feeling both awe and responsibility. "Yes, Leora, I am here, always." Word of their growing bond could not stay hidden for long. Couriers and advisors began whispering in the corridors of the palace. Some feared it, some admired it, but all agreed it was unprecedented. A human, a stranger, had entered the palace and changed the course of the princess's life. The queen called Elias to her private chamber. She had heard the whispers, seen the glances, and watched her daughter with new eyes. "You have shown abilities I did not expect, human," Oriana said, her tone a mix of caution and admiration. "Your connection with Leora, it is undeniable, but it raises questions. What is your purpose here? Are you a protector or something more?" Elias met her gaze steadily. "I am here only to help her, Your Majesty. Nothing else. I will not interfere in your rule or your people, but I cannot ignore the bond I feel with her. I cannot leave her unprotected." Oriana studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Very well. I will allow it for now, but understand this, your actions are watched closely. Any sign of harm, any deception, and you will be dealt with according to our laws." Elias bowed. "I understand, and I will not fail her." That night he returned to Leora's room. She was awake, staring out the window at the twin moons. "Father," she said softly, "they do not understand us, but I know you do. I know you will not leave me." Elias knelt beside her. "I will not leave you, Leora. I will protect you, guide you, and stand by you. That is my promise." She smiled, her small hand holding his. "Then we are strong together." Outside, the palace shimmered under the light of the moons. Inside, a human and a child shared a bond that defied logic, science, and tradition. And somewhere deep within the queen, a seed of realization began to grow. This human, this stranger from the stars, might be the key to her daughter's future, and perhaps to the future of their entire world. The days ahead would test them all. Unknown threats lurked beyond the palace walls, and the whispers of court politics grew louder. Yet for now, Elias and Leora remained together, exploring the mysteries of a bond that was more than chance, more than blood. It was a connection written among the stars themselves, and for the first time in his life, Elias felt that the universe had a purpose beyond exploration and survival. That purpose was simple yet profound: to protect, to guide, and to care for someone who needed him, someone who somehow had always been meant to call him father. The palace had grown quieter over the past few days, yet a tension lingered in the air. Captain Elias Carter had begun to feel the weight of responsibility more acutely. It was not just about protecting Princess Leora anymore. It was about protecting an entire world that had never known humans. That morning, as he and Leora walked along the crystal terraces overlooking the city, a sudden alarm sounded. The ground trembled slightly underfoot. Alarms echoed through the palace corridors, deep and resonant. The twin suns overhead were blotted out by a dark shadow moving across the sky. Elias looked up and felt a cold knot form in his stomach. A fleet of alien warships, sleek, dark, and menacing, was approaching the planet from the outer orbit. He immediately recognized the signs of a well-organized attack. Oriana, the queen, arrived at the terrace with her advisors. Her expression was a mixture of concern and resolve. "They come from the neighboring empire," she said, her voice steady. They seek control of this world, and they underestimate our strength. Elias studied the fleet carefully. Their ships were larger and more heavily armed than any he had seen. Yet despite the odds, he felt a spark of confidence. Humans were underestimated in countless ways, and he had learned to turn that underestimation into advantage. "Your Majesty," he said, bowing slightly, "I have experience with enemy fleets. I can help you defend the city if you allow me to lead a strike force." Oriana hesitated, studying him. "You propose to lead our defense? Against the might of the neighboring empire?" Elias met her gaze steadily. "I do not ask for trust blindly. Let me show you our options. We can defend your people with strategies that they do not expect. We can use the peaceful glow of the twin moons had barely faded when a new alarm sounded across the palace. Captain Elias Carter was already awake, scanning the horizon from the balcony. His instincts immediately told him something was wrong. Above the crystalline towers, enemy ships darkened the sky once more. This fleet was larger, more organized and moving with precision. Elias clenched his fists. The neighboring empire had returned, stronger and more determined than before. Inside the palace, chaos had erupted. Couriers rushed through the corridors, soldiers readied themselves, and advisors whispered urgently. But the most pressing concern was the Queen, Oriana. Reports indicated that she had been captured during the enemy's sudden assault. Elias's mind raced. The Queen was not just a ruler. She was Leora's mother and the guardian of an entire civilization. Leaving her in the hands of these invaders was not an option. He turned to Leora, who stood beside him, her golden eyes wide but resolute. "Father," she said softly, "we must save her." Elias nodded. "Yes, Leora, and we will. But we must be smart. We cannot rush blindly into their hands. We need a plan." Together they gathered a small team of palace soldiers and advisors who had faith in Elias's leadership. The group moved quietly through secret passages, avoiding the enemy patrols and reaching the outer walls of the palace. Elias consulted a holographic map of the enemy fleet, analyzing weak points and potential routes for infiltration. "Their main force is concentrated here," he explained, pointing to the display. "But they left a narrow corridor here near the canyon. It's lightly guarded. If we move quickly and quietly, we can reach the Queen before they notice." Leora listened intently. "I can help," she said. "I can sense danger. I can warn you." Elias looked at her with admiration. "That's why I need you with me. You are my eyes and ears. Stay close and trust your instincts." The small team moved through the canyon under the cover of the alien night. The walls of crystal reflected the faint starlight, creating illusions that helped mask their approach. Leora focused, reaching out with her senses, guiding Elias past hidden traps and enemy patrols. Hours passed and the tension grew. Every step brought them closer to the enemy stronghold, but also closer to danger. Elias relied on his human ingenuity, combining stealth tactics with knowledge of alien technology. He set small diversions to mislead the enemy, and cleared paths through security measures that had never encountered human strategy before. Finally, they reached the central chamber where the Queen was held. She was surrounded by guards, their energy shields glowing faintly. Elias studied the situation carefully. A direct attack would be too dangerous. He needed a plan that leveraged both Leora's abilities and his own tactics. "Leora," he whispered, "can you focus on them together? Disrupt their coordination just long enough for us to move in?" The child nodded, her eyes closing as she concentrated. A subtle shimmer of energy radiated from her, invisible yet tangible. The guards hesitated, their movements faltering as if time had slowed. Elias recognized the opportunity and signaled his team to move. They struck swiftly. Using coordinated strikes, they neutralized the guards, taking advantage of the confusion Leora had caused. The Queen watched in awe as the human and the child worked seamlessly together, their movements precise and synchronized. Elias reached the Queen and helped her to her feet. "Your Majesty, we need to move, now." Oriana's golden eyes met his. I see what I underestimated. Humans and your bond with Leora. It is extraordinary." Elias offered a small smile, though there was no time for pride. "There is no time for compliments. Let's get you out safely." As they made their escape through the palace corridors, enemy reinforcements appeared. Elias adjusted his tactics on the fly, using diversions, traps, and the natural terrain to their advantage. Leora continued to guide them, her instincts sharper than any sensor or scanner. Together, human ingenuity and the child's unique abilities created a force that the enemy could not predict. When they reached the outer canyon, the team paused. The enemy fleet was still above, but the narrow path offered cover. Elias turned to the Queen. "Are you ready?" he asked. Oriana nodded. "Yes, I trust you." The journey down the canyon was perilous, but Elias had calculated every step. Using a combination of alien grappling tools and human ingenuity, they navigated the cliffs, avoided enemy patrols, and reached the edge of the forest. Finally, they emerged into the open plains. For the first time, the night sky stretched above them, filled with stars. The palace glowed faintly in the distance, still under threat but no longer under immediate control of the enemy. Elias allowed himself a brief moment to breathe. The Queen was safe and Leora was unharmed. Yet he knew the battle was not over. Oriana turned to him, her expression a mixture of admiration and curiosity. "You have shown skill, courage, and wisdom that I did not expect. And Leora, she has your guidance and your influence. This bond, it is remarkable." Elias looked at Leora, who stood proudly beside him. "Your Majesty, the bond is real, yes. But it is also about trust, teamwork, and courage. That is something humans do well. And it seems, your daughter has that courage as well." The Queen studied them both. For decades, she had ruled with confidence, relying on strategy, tradition, and strength. Yet here were two beings, one human, one alien child, who had defied expectation and changed the course of the battle with nothing but courage, intelligence, and a bond that transcended reason. "Perhaps," Oriana said slowly, "I have been too cautious, too focused on tradition. Perhaps this bond is exactly what our people need, not just for survival but for growth, for change." Elias bowed slightly. "I do not seek power or recognition, Your Majesty. I only seek to protect and guide her. That is enough." The Queen nodded, a faint smile on her lips. "And yet what you have done will be remembered. You have shown our people that strength comes in many forms: courage, intelligence, and the willingness to act when it matters most." Leora's small hand reached for Elias's. "See, Father? We can do anything together." Elias smiled, feeling pride and responsibility all at once. "Yes, Leora. Together we can do anything." As they returned to the palace, the first rays of the twin suns illuminated the city. Citizens emerged from their homes, cheering for the Queen and the brave human who had saved her. For the first time, Elias felt that humans were truly understood by an alien civilization, not as strangers, but as allies, protectors, and bearers of hope. In the private chambers, the Queen finally spoke more openly. "Elias Carter, you have earned my trust, though you are not of this world. You have shown me that humans possess qualities we cannot ignore: courage, ingenuity, and a bond that cannot be explained by science alone. That bond between you and Leora, it is extraordinary, perhaps even cosmic in nature." Elias listened carefully, realizing that the Queen's words carried both respect and warning. "I understand, Your Majesty. I will continue to act with care, wisdom, and honor. Nothing more is required of me than that." Oriana studied him one last time before nodding. "Very well. But know this. Your bond with my daughter will shape the future of this planet, and I will be watching." Leora ran to Elias, hugging his leg. "Father, we did it. We saved her." Elias knelt and embraced her, feeling the depth of their connection once again. "Yes, Leora, we did it, and we will face whatever comes next together." As the twin moons rose over the palace once more, Elias realized that his journey on this strange world was far from over. The enemy might retreat, but their threat was not gone. Other civilizations across the stars might underestimate humans as they had in the past. Yet Elias knew one undeniable truth: humans could survive, adapt, and triumph, even against the impossible. And perhaps most importantly, he had found a new purpose, one that no mission, no exploration, no adventure in the galaxy had ever given him, a purpose that transcended planets, species, and stars. His purpose was to protect, guide, and stand by the child who had called him father. And with her by his side, he knew that together, they could face any challenge the universe had in store. The twin suns rose slowly over the crystalline city, casting warm light on the palace and the recovering population. After the recent attacks and daring rescue, the city was alive with relief and cautious celebration. Captain Elias Carter stood at the palace balcony, observing the streets below. Soldiers and citizens moved with renewed purpose, repairing damage, reinforcing defenses, and expressing gratitude to those who had risked everything to save the queen and the princess. Leora ran up to him, her golden hair glowing in the sunlight. "Father, look. They are fixing everything!" "They are so happy." Elias smiled, ruffling her hair gently. "Yes, Leora. They are happy and they are safe. But we must remain vigilant. The universe is large and there are always threats. Today was just one of many challenges we may face." Leora frowned slightly, but her small hand held his firmly. "Then we will face them together, Father, just like before." Elias nodded. "Exactly. Together." Inside the palace, the queen, Oriana, prepared to address her court and the citizens of the city. Her capture and the subsequent rescue had shaken the traditional advisors, but it also opened their eyes to a truth they had never considered. The human among them was extraordinary. "Captain Elias Carter," she said when Elias approached her chambers, "your actions have changed the sea of our world. You have shown coup,